Well, 6 months have gone by, and in the words of Trump's own Commerce Secretary, it's Trump's economy now. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Center Lane, the political discussion for those of us in the middle. Compromise is not a bad thing. Well, 6 months have gone by, and we have some numbers coming in already out of the first 6 months of Trump's term and the economy as a whole. And a couple we already know about, obviously, the jobs report. Controversy. If you haven't, I talked about that yesterday in my podcast. Check that out if you haven't heard about it yet. And also, we got the GDP numbers only at 1.2. That's half of what we're normally doing, about 2.5 to 3% a year. We're at 1.2 so far, very sluggish. And of course, inflation is starting to do a slow rise. But what I really want to talk about in this podcast is about the tariffs. Okay, the tariffs that Trump has imposed or threatened, since April Independence Day. I want to give you what my thoughts on. First off, the good. There is some good things with tariffs. They can be used effectively. They can be used as a bargaining tool. They can open up markets for us. In other words, a lot of the European markets, some of these other countries are very protective of their own sovereignty, and they charge a rate for the stuff that comes in from us that we're trying to ship out to them. So it stifles our growth and stifles our opportunities. So with the tariffs, and we just call them reciprocal tariffs, I guess, you charge us 50%, then we're going to charge you 15%. So it's a bargaining tool, and I think can be very effective. The only one thing I would say about that is, don't keep these tariffs going indefinitely. When you get what you want, then you start, play nice again. Secondly, that does put money into the bottom line, of our coffers. Money is coming in. Now, is there other ways to put money in our coffers? Yes, there is, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But it does bring money in, and there's been billions, not trillions, like Trump said. There's not been trillions, sorry. But there's been billions, which is substantial. So that does bring money in. Now, the bad thing about tariffs, in my opinion, it's a tax, man. It's a tax on us, because prices are going to go up. They're already starting to go up. Or if they're not going up, there's a little thing called shrinkflation, which I've noticed very much when I go to the grocery store. Well, that box of cereal is still $3, but something looks different about it. Oh, it's half the size it used to be. So be careful of that. The packaging is a tool that these guys use to try to keep prices in check, and you feel like you're doing, hey, it's not so bad, but then you find yourself going back to get that same item again and again because it's a smaller amount. Another thing that does, it hurts our manufacturing because, look, we have to get parts to build things. Even if everything was manufactured in the United States, there's going to be certain parts and components that you're going to need to get from other countries. That's how the economies work for everybody. It works well. That's how we keep prices in check. We're not going to be able to manufacture everything. Like Trump is saying, hey, look, we can just manufacture here. There's no tariffs. Well, that's great. But first off, it takes you, just to break ground, it's going to take a year and a half to get a factory going. And then you got to get the equipment, and that those stuff from other countries, a lot of that equipment, etc. So you can see where that just snowballs and turns into something that's not really feasible in today's world. It's just not the way things are anymore. Another way it hurts is, for example, for the manufacturing piece of it, Ford is saying that the tariffs are going to cost them an extra $2 billion to build cars this year. That's just flat. That's just what's going to cost them, just because of the different tariffs from different countries, what's getting paid, how much they're going to be charged for certain parts. That's $2 billion, and that's going to find its way to the consumer. It's just no way that it's not going to. And along with that line, when the new cars prices go up, used cars go up as well, because it's supply and demand, man, like anything else. Remember how much cars cost during COVID? To get a used car, it was crazy. They were expensive, almost as much as a new car. They held, it's just the way it's supply and demand. That's what we got. Secondly, using tariffs as a battering ram against people that are our friends, like Canada, for example. Come on. You're mad at them for what and why, and it's just hurting both countries. Doesn't make any sense. And the other one that really sticks out in my mind is against Brazil, who, by the way, we have a surplus trading agreement with. In other words, they buy more from us than we buy from them. A lot of countries, we're in a deficit. We're buying a lot more from China than we send to China. But Brazil, they buy a lot more from us. But with Trump, he's upset because Bolsonaro, whatever his name is, the ex-president there, who's under house arrest, just starting today, I just found out. He's under a lot of trouble, and Trump's trying to use a tariff as a way to make them lessen the charges on his buddy. And that's just screwed up, man. That's not what a tariff should be about. That's just bullying another country, trying to throw some weight around and hurting people in the meantime. It's nuts. It's hurting our markets too, because they can't afford to buy from us. It's just crazy. So that's not a very good way to leverage tariffs or use tariffs. I get what Trump is coming from a lot, because he's always felt this way, that we've been getting ripped off from other countries. That was his mantra, way before he was president in the 80s. They're ripping us off. They're charging us this. And he's not totally wrong on that. So I get what he's saying, But I think his art of the deal and some of his decision making is just, he's shooting from the hip. He's a gunslinger. And you can't be a gunslinger and run the U.S. economy, in my opinion. You need something a little more stable. So that's my thoughts, you guys. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, thank you so much for the comments. Got some great discussions going on there. I appreciate all of the support, and I will talk to you tomorrow.